GZERO Media is here at the World Bank IMF Spring Meetings, and this conversation is part of our Global Stage series produced in partnership with Microsoft. We're going to talk about digital access and AI readiness and how those have to go hand in hand. I've got Vickie Robinson here, General Manager of Energy, Connectivity, and Sustainability at Microsoft. Great to see you.
Great to see you as always, Tony. Thanks for having us.
It's lovely to have you both. And Cufré, you are the Director of Digital Access at the World Bank Group.
Good to see you, Tony.
Great to see you. So I want to start with you, Vickie, because we've been talking about access and connectivity for a number of years. Now we know AI is the fastest diffusing technology in history. How is that impacting the digital divide, and how are you viewing that problem now?
Great question, Tony. So we've been talking about this at least since 2020. We see great progress being made on the digital access front, meaning that you are getting out theoretical coverage throughout the world. We're now at about 2.2 billion people around the world who are offline. But when you're talking about AI, you need to cross the Rubicon from access to actual adoption. And so that's where we see the real challenges today is like what needles can be moved in order to translate internet access in a theoretical sense to people actually getting online so that you can then introduce the next level of innovation through AI and AI adoption.
And Herman, so that brings up the notion of a whole stack that's necessary. We're talking about infrastructure, we're talking about devices, we're talking about connectivity, skills. How are you viewing digital access today from your lens?
The way to think about it is really not about connectivity itself, but what is the end goal of all of that? So in our case, we're all about jobs. This is the unifying topic within the World Bank Group. So everything has to be put in place to allow jobs to happen. So, and you've seen that over time, we've made a big push on rural connectivity over many decades. Still, rural connectivity is not where it should be. And why? Because it's not just about connecting the people, it's about giving them the skills to use the devices. It's about giving the devices themselves, ways to afford them, ways to afford the data, ways for them to plug in the device and actually charge it in the evening when they go home, right? So it's, when you start thinking about the stack, it's really about all of the above and how you take a view that is just not addressing network failures or addressing dark spots in connectivity or addressing just devices by itself, but the whole of it. And this is where we spend a lot of time thinking around solutions. My team is a solutions team, which is trying to think about the end goal of how do we move these people to get employed, in socioeconomic development, etc.
Sounds to me like this would take a wide variety of stakeholders, including local partners, especially when it comes to delivering of energy to devices. How are you viewing that?
It remains the critical unlock in being able to do this. And so while Herman and I sit kind of from the bank and at Microsoft, to be able to ensure that you actually have solutions that are locally tailored, you need those local partners. And that's really our approach to this problem set, working with hyper-local partners, particularly in the developing world, who are closer to the community and can actually figure out what the specific community needs in order to actually get online. So you can never assume that if you build it, they will come. You need to be thinking about energy access in some instances, right? Energy is like the kind of like the hidden secret sauce to all of this. If you don't have reliable energy access, forget about devices, forget about data concerns or skilling. You kind of need something to kind of plug into. And that's where it's important for us to be thinking about, from a local perspective, how are we tailoring these solutions? And so I really love the work that Herman and team are doing to kind of convene. We bring our partner ecosystem together. The bank kind of convenes others, thinks about policy to really make these solutions work in communities where it actually matters.
So Herman, she raises such a great point about all the steps that it takes, including connectivity. We're already in the midst of a project that World Bank launched about 1.5 years ago to connect more people in Africa to electricity. There's only so much development money to go around right now, and to some extent, development and largesse are frowned upon as opposed to investment. How do you pick and choose where that money goes, knowing that all of these are urgent concerns?
Yes. You know, the saying, scarcity is the mother of all invention. there's a silver lining to what's happening, right? So dollars are more scarce, so you need to squeeze more impact out of them. And I can tell you that for years, the multilateral community, us, the IDBs, the EBRDs, etc., we kind of collaborate, but to a certain extent compete with each other, saying, well, I would like to make that financing, I would like to finance that project. When the money is scarcer, you're really forced to collaborate. So what we're seeing is that all of us coming together saying, you contribute $1, we'll put another dollar, and we'll try to make it work. So it has brought us very close together, and it has really honed us into what stands to bring the greatest bang for the buck, so to speak, which is a discipline that, coming from the private sector, is a discipline that we need to honor, and it's a really driver of innovation of results. For us, it's about using our very scarce dollars alongside with others to mobilize the private sector. The money, the hundreds of billions, trillions of dollars that are needed are not going to come from the bank. They're not going to come from the governments. They're going to come from us enabling certain investments to be done by de-risking those investments for the private sector. And to the extent that we're doing this, and yesterday we were having a conversation with Vickie of how do we go about doing that, I think we really have the opportunity to multiply our effect from 1 to 20 times, just because it is not our money, it's a collective money, and we're just providing a de-risking layer to entice our private sector money to say, yes, I'm willing to take a gamble in Africa, I'm willing to go into AI or energy and look at a 20-year investment horizon, where otherwise perhaps I would not. So this is how we make the money work better for us.
I just want to ask you a follow-up on that, because you're talking about de-risking, and maybe not everybody understands. So when you're dealing with an economy that's already in deep debt crisis,
Yes.
how exactly do you begin to de-risk the kind of investment that a Microsoft or a big bank might make there?
I can give you an example. So, for instance, we wanted to increase submarine connectivity in Togo. Equiano, Google has a cable landing there. The cost of that cable was very high. It didn't pay off. So what we did is we went to Google and we say, we will bring a private sector operator that will put some money, we'll put some money, the government will put some money, we'll do a PPP around it, and we'll add certain assets, rights of way on certain infrastructure, some idle fiber that is available, perhaps even some demand upfront from the government. All of these elements make the numbers work. So de-risking is really about share pain, share gain type of discussion, where we look what Microsoft can bring, what we can bring, and we all kind of saying, well, I'm not willing to take the whole risk, but I can sort of take a fraction of the risk from the product suite that I have, and collectively you make things happen. And that's kind of the whole philosophy behind it.
Vickie, I was going to say, what does success look like in 5 years? But the truth is this technology is evolving so quickly that 5 years could be a lifetime. And so I would ask you rather, when does success need to happen and what does it look like?
I say yesterday, but that's just me. But seriously, I think I would build upon something that Herman touched on, these public-private partnerships. And from the private sector perspective, we need a signal that it's safe to continue to invest. And so I think success is, regulators thinking about the policy reforms that are necessary to get affordability in the right place, where they're talking about devices, data, energy connectivity, coming alongside public finance, and then the private sector coming in and say, this is kind of where we can come in because now it's been modeled. We can see what it actually looks like. And so success is crossing that threshold of taking access to adoption by taking on the affordability component, which then allows communities to get online and think about AI and the next frontier. So that's what I want to see. I think there's kind of some coalescing across the public-private and partnerships to really go about this in a coordinated way. And then I would also say, lastly, we have to stop thinking about these things in isolation. Energy over here, skilling over here, connectivity over here, but coordinated approach to your point, Herman, to really go at this in the full stack to unlock AI.
And Herman, last question. This is a challenging time for multilateralism in general. What gives you confidence that World Bank is the right institution to take this on?
I think under the particular leadership of Ajay Banga, what I really like about it is that he has really set objectives for us. So I have between my KPIs, we need to help deliver 430 million connections by 2030. We're halfway there. We need to deliver digitally enabled services to 270 million people. I have those numbers ingrained in my head, and I'm being daily reminded that this is where we need to go. We have a strategy that calls for 1 billion people connected. So the discipline of bringing us very close to the number and tracking it on an annual basis. And then the other push that we're doing is on solutions, right? What we're discussing is really about, yes, there's value to isolated projects. We're not, that is the business as usual, but increasingly we are discussing with the likes of Microsoft, look, we see these connectivity gaps across Africa, going from east to west and so on. How can we help address those through a collaborative effort with the governments, with lending from the banks, from other AFDBs, other bilaterals, from Microsoft? They bring tremendous know-how. They know where the horizon is in terms of AI, so they can help us point north in that regard. And of course, the amazing human capacity that they have, right? So all of these are incredible resources that can complement ours to just see how far we can push the agenda.
Human-powered, that's the way it should be, right? Germán Cufré, Vickie Robinson, it's great to see you both.
Thank you, Tony.
Thank you. Pleasure to see you.